gentlemen. Hello, 1, 2, 1. Is this working? Hello, how are you doing? Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this special comedy session. Thank you all very much for coming. For those of you who don't know, I am Tim McGarry, actor, writer, stand-up, and Justin Bieber body double. I asked my wife, do I look like Justin Bieber? She said, no, you look a bit more like Jeremy Corbyn's dad. It's an absolute pleasure to be here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to have a fabulous afternoon doing one of the most boring things you can do in the world about comedy, which is to talk about comedy, because it's a very serious business, and it is a serious business. And for the first time in my life, I'm going to get to play the part of Stephen Nolan, but without the massive salary. We're going to talk today about comedy. As you know, hopefully some of you in the room will know, I've been a comedian in Northern Ireland for the past 20 years, full-time comedian. I've made money in Northern Ireland, made a living in Northern Ireland, basically through theatre, through radio, through television, virtually none of it outside of Northern Ireland, all entirely in Northern Ireland, apart from a couple of radio commissions I had for Radio 2 and Radio 4. So what we're discussing today is why Northern Ireland. Are we funny enough in Northern Ireland? Are we funny enough to get outside of Northern Ireland? Are we funny enough to get commissions off the BBC and Channel 4 and all the Sky and all the other broadcasters outside of Northern Ireland? Are we a region that is punching below our weight or above our weight? And what can we do to improve that? We have an exclusive panel, ladies and gentlemen, and we're delighted that we have a really top quality panel of all different people from different varieties of. We have a couple of commissioners here, we have a couple of practitioners here, and we have a couple of people who've been at both ends of the struggle to both commission comedy programs and also to try and instill them. So I want to introduce the panel to you. I'll introduce them first by their name, and then I'll ask each of them in very short sentences in about 3 lines to summarise who they are and what they do. We will then have an open discussion among ourselves. We'll ask about, as I say, the issues about comedy in Northern Ireland. How can we not get onto the network, and what are we doing wrong? We'll show a couple of very minor clips for you to have for your amusement and entertainment. And at the end, we will have space generally for you to ask questions of anybody on the panel. Now, I'll just introduce the panel. On my far right here is Chris Sussman, BBC Commissioner, a very important gentleman. Vanessa Haynes, who is an executive producer, has worked in comedy for a long time. Eddie Doyle from RTE. Graham, give me your second name, Graham Smith. Great start if you want to. That's my Stephen Nolan career over before it starts.
Your telly
Didn't fucking notice that.
We know.
Jackie Hamilton of Moondog Productions, and of course Clare Childs from the Belfast Comedy Writers Group, a brand new group that has just set it up. Just for the conflict of interest and all of that, Jackie Hamilton is not only a friend of mine, he produced some stuff that I was involved in, including 2 Ceasefires and a Wedding and The Blame Game, just in case you think I'm biased towards him or he's biased towards me. The rest of them I haven't worked with formally, informally with Vanessa, and I know all these other people. But what I want to do is just start off in 3 sentences, tell us who you are and what you do, and summarise for the audience who you are. So
I'm Chris Sussman. I'm a comedy commissioner at the BBC, so I develop and commission scripted comedy across BBC One, BBC Two, BBC Three, BBC Four, and now BBC iPlayer as well.
Vanessa.
I'm Vanessa Haynes. I am not that. I'm a script editor, script consultant, script doctor. Basically, if you put script in front of it, I probably meddle. Yeah.
Eddie Doyle, head of comedy, talent development and music at RT Television. A bit like Chris, commissioned comedy and across RT1, RT2 and the RT Player, and I do talent development and music as well.
Graham.
Graham Smith. I was a commissioner for comedy at Channel 4, then an executive producer for comedy within BBC In-House Comedy, then a network comedy at Channel 5, now have a company Grand Scheme. We are consultants, but we also do a lot of training, particularly in partnership with Creative Skill Set, and which is enormously enjoyable. And the Belfast Comedy Writers Group actually came out of a training session that we did in Belfast about 9 months ago.
Thank you. Keep it short, Jackie.
Jackie Hamilton, formerly executive producer of BBC Northern Ireland Comedy. Independent producer now, and I also run the Empire Laughs 5 Comedy Club in Belfast.
Thank you, Claire.
I'm a co-founder of Belfast Comedy Writers.
and we're a collaboration of writers that have come together to make our voice heard a little more.
Thank you very much, everybody. Now, I suspect a lot of people in the audiences are either comedians or comedy writers or indies who are interested in selling comedy to the network. So let me ask the tough question first of all to our two commissioners, to Chris and to Eddie. You both commission comedy. Anything on your desk, anything in the pipeline that's from Northern Ireland that we should know about? Have you commissioned anything from Northern Ireland, Chris?
No, I haven't. I've been doing this job for 4 years. I've been looking after Northern Irish stuff for about 2 years, and it's really hard, just being honest. And hopefully we're going to touch on some of those issues today. Tried. I want to commission something from Northern Ireland. We have a very clear mandate and a desire to commission stuff from Northern Ireland. I think the closest we've got is we did a comedy showcase in Belfast last year, and we put on some live performances in front of an audience, and we ended up commissioning a radio series from one of those, which we're hoping will turn into a TV series. We thought it had loads going for it, wasn't quite ready for TV. It was a sort of very experienced person wrote it. It was his first time writing narrative comedy. And sometimes you have to go on that journey, and we thought a radio series would be a great way to develop that writing and develop those characters. So our fingers are crossed for that. But apart from that, just being totally honest, there hasn't been a lot that has crossed my desk in the 2 years that I've been there that I've thought, that is a brilliant sitcom, I want to make that.
Okay, we'll go back to the reasons for that. Eddie, again, RTE, anything from the north, or is there a protectionist mindset that you don't want anything from the north?
Well, I mean, I suppose I could probably have the same conversation with people in the south. You know, we have a limited amount of money, and we don't commission. We have limited shots at commissioning comedy. So there would be there'd be a lot of people in the south who would feel, Jesus, like, you know, you're not commissioning enough stuff from local southern producers as well. I mean, over the last nearly 10 years, I've been commissioning most of our comedy from RTE, and we've done bits and pieces. We did a show with Jackie. So we worked with some Northern Irish producers. We've done way back with Green Ink, and we've done some other bits and pieces in the entertainment space with Waddell's. There's no partitionist. There is no partitionist mentality.
You sure?
There's something interesting going on in terms of geography. I think a similar thing is happening. A similar thing. You could say a similar thing in Dublin that you could say in Belfast. I think part of our function is to. It's like a lot of sessions. The McGarry session today was kind of interesting about, you know, scale and position being an advantage and a disadvantage. I think the fact that some of the stuff that we've done historically has been about differentiating itself from all of the rest of the world. Because we sit in the shadow of some of the best TV in the world, it's certainly coming up as a broadcaster coming out of Dublin. Historically, we wanted to say that our comedy productions and our comic voice differentiate themselves and are quite culturally specific about that place and about that comic voice and about things that are different from everything else. Increasingly now, we're trying to wheel around and say we want to do comedy which is exportable, which can hold its head amongst everything else which could conceivably, where we could be a partner, the way we are in Mrs. Brown's Boys, for example, where we are in a partner on a comedy which is less, in some sense it is culturally specific to a place, but it also has universal things that are exportable and can be scheduled in the biggest cities of telly. So there's a bit of tension, I think, there's issues arising from comic voices, you know, regional geography, but a lot of the things, as people said earlier today, that historically would have been a disadvantage can increasingly be an advantage, I think.
But in terms of nuts and bolts, I mean, there are people here who are comedians or stand-ups or writers or whatever. Yes. Do they get a first crack of the whip in RT? Are they going about it the wrong way? Are they not coming to you?
Well, I mean, you know, I don't think anybody that I do business with feels they get a fair crack of the whip. I mean, I think if you're choosing to write comedy, you're choosing a hard station in life, to be totally honest. Like it is, you know, and I mean, it's if your psychological profile is like a people pleaser like me, you're probably in the wrong business. To actually, if your job is to tell people,
no,
you know, I don't, you know, said to Chris, it's a bit like saying, I don't fancy you enough, or you know, your baby isn't good looking enough. You know, it's one of those things. There's a ton of projects which have merits, which are funny, but not quite funny enough to kind of navigate the very, very difficult path between me liking it enough me feeling that I can convince a channel controller to buy into it, play it in the right slot, find the funding, land in the right slot, and be repeatable. So it's a tough gig, you know.
Vanessa, you've vast experience. We worked with LWT, you worked with Celador in London. You're now based here.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, you're an English woman? You're an English woman?
Like
You're an English woman. Do you find, are we funny enough here? Are we funny in Northern Ireland? Are we deserving of more?
Yes, but it's a bigger question than that, quite simply. There are a few things working against us that are creating a bit of a perfect storm. Firstly, there is a tendency amongst the stand-up world to look inwards, which isn't easy to sell outwards. There is a lack of the comedy world is still in its infancy, the live comedy world. I know you've been working it a long time, but bear with me. The comedy world is in its infancy here. There aren't enough comedy clubs. There aren't enough people going to comedy clubs. There aren't enough people who think, let's go to a comedy club. There is no regular character or sketch comedy nights. And in case you haven't noticed, most of the commissions recently are writer-performer-led. There's no one doing that. We need to, we are absolutely, we've been saying it for years, and I'm really glad Claire's sort of finally, Claire and the team are sort of, trying to get together and work together to get the character comedy off the ground, because believe you me, if you don't get performers and writers working together, we're not going to get to the same standard as what's been going on in Manchester and Glasgow and London and everywhere else. There is culturally, we were talking earlier about this, a lack of collaboration, which we need to get over, because actually collaboration is how you get really great talent on screen. If you look at what's on TV at the moment, whether it's Miranda Hart, whether it's over at Sky One, people like Ben Wilbond and Larry Rickard and all those people who started in Ealing, the Ealing Comedy Nights, they've been working collaboratively for years and years and years before they got onto the stage. They were paying attention and going to Edinburgh and being part of the larger circuit. So there's a collaboration thing. I think we don't collaborate because culturally people are brilliant filmmakers, they are auteurs, they want to be writer-directors, and they are able to develop themselves in little bubbles. And because they're not collaborating and they're not working with people like, I'm a development producer. People know me as a script editor, I'm a development producer. I work with people with their scripts. I midwife their ideas and try and sell them. There is no culture of development producing here, and that's not to disrespect the producers here, but they don't have a background in developing scripts, which puts them at a disadvantage, because actually in Manchester and Glasgow and everywhere else, they do. We don't have scripts that are reaching that standard. Believe you me, I've just wrapped up my company. It was a bit heartbreaking. The reason I wrapped up my company is because I'm not seeing scripts on my desk that are remotely competitive. They're not at the standard that are going to get lovely commissioners like this who desperately want. And I'll just finish. The biggest problem is, actually people like Chris genuinely do want something from Northern Ireland. You don't even have to be better than everyone else. You just have to be as good.
I absolutely promise you, when I get a script from a Northern Irish writer, I open it genuinely willing it to be brilliant, really, really wanting it, and you give it much more leeway than you give the other scripts, because that's where our shortage is. But like you say, it doesn't happen. And it's very hard for me to sit here and say why that's the case, because I only get sort of that end of the process. I don't see what's happening at the rest of the process, which is what you guys are involved with. It's really interesting to know where the writers are coming from, where they're found, how they're being nurtured, etc., to get that script to the stage where it's coming into me. And by the way, ITV and Sky and Channel 4, there's more channels making comedy than there's ever been before. So there must be a fundamental problem, I think, if
there's more outlet now at the moment. My trajectory of touring was theatre, radio, and then television. There's far more. Everybody now has a camera. There's so much stuff online.
Central, UK Gold, Dave, they're all making original.
Claire, you've got a Belfast writers group. You've heard of people say basically we're not producing scripts that are good enough to go on television. Are we still at the very early stages of that, or what's the perspective of your comedy writers group?
Chris, I have tried to send you a script.
Have you? Go on.
They aren't deliberately at either end, but
Quite often what happens is that whenever a script is there to send, I say, will Chris Sussman receive it? They said, no, he's not looking for anything at the minute.
Who says that?
Well, that was Stella Fine Media. But that was not the direct link with you.
It's their share value.
So nothing's actually. We're talking about the production company process then. There's nothing.
Yes.
If it's not coming to me, there's no way I can judge it, is there?
So quite often I'll be talking to them, oh yeah, I was talking to Chris yesterday. Is he looking for anything? Is there any way for me to get it to you? There are certainly plenty of scripts sitting there. Lots of sitcoms actually.
Well, get them to us. Honestly, who is saying this? Because that is totally wrong. We are constantly looking for scripts.
I'll get your email.
Across all channels.
On a more positive note, if I may, I've just finished a series of very short programs, which was part of the conversation because they started off life as being 30 minutes, and with the commissioning team at BBC Northern Ireland. We asked the question, why they have to be this length, why can't they be 8 minutes, why can't they be 10? So we ended up making them as 14, and 8 of them, and just made the money go a different way and make it work. But the important part in the context of this conversation is that this was very much about collaboration. Actually, it was about bringing all these different people who are working at a very beginner's level of comedy, of trying, stand-ups, like Kieran here, who does some stand-up at the Empire and other comedy clubs that I'm not going to name because I'm not naming them. So it was by bringing these people who have character ideas, and I think characters are a good starting point for the longer form narrative work. But here's the point. When we got these people in to do their characters, and through fair means or foul, we decided which ones we were going to do. Then we created this collaboration hub, which is what you were talking about. And I think, to be fair to the BBC, part of affording this process made that happen, because it may happen independently anyway, with people going to clubs and hanging out and doing some stuff, or there might be arts things or something like that. But I thought that was a good thing, and hopefully the benefit of that will be that they go on to do other things. The sitcom that you write, I may not end up producing it, it might come your way, but that's actually part of the process. So I thought that was quite good, and I think it's worth reflecting on. Yes, it only happened this year, but the point is it has happened, and hopefully it will grow and go on to something else and create longer form comedies. So
I guess my point was, that's brilliant, but to get narrative, you need to have a ground level culture of developing and honing your talent.
Yeah.
You need to work out if your character's funny. I've seen the commissioners and executives go crazy in Edinburgh with new talent before they're ready sometimes, actually, and go down this sort of Alice in Wonderland rabbit hole, trying to develop someone, and then it doesn't work, and then this person practically...
Well, this is a bit like that. This is a bit like, I've been using the analogy, if you're going to make an LP or an album, I don't know what they're called these days, my digital LPs. You have 12 or 14 songs, but before you did the 12 or 14, you had 24 ideas, and let's pick this one. This process of late license, which is what we call the show, is a bit like cataloguing songs and ideas and identifying characters, and why don't you two work together and see if you can make that work. So it is part of that, but therefore the expectation actually, which is really important, is in the context of all of that. It's not saying this is Friday night, we're going to move Graham Norton and it better work. This is about a different thing. In fact, it'll be online, it's got a different purpose.
I want to bring in Graham briefly, because Graham, you've worked at it from both ends of you've been a commissioner for Channel 4 and Channel 5. You're now a guy pitching ideas to
Yeah, we're a slightly unusual offering in that we're not a production company. Myself and my partner Mark Robson, we're a consultancy, so we work with lots of people, and they might be format creators, but more often they're writers. And so our job is to do the work that Nesh is talking about, is to go through the script management process. So it's more than a script editing thing. It's more of like working with writers so you can get something that is in a fit state, to take to Chris or to Channel 4 or to Sky. And then we will help package and broker those deals. But just coming back to the specifics of today,
so the writers and you can come to you and say, look, here's where I am, and you will help me to put that make that presentable to.
But the most effective thing we do is to encourage people, enable people, give people a kick up the arse to do it themselves, which is why the birth of the Belfast Comedy Writers Group, for us, it was great. The fact that it came out of a creating comedy session that we did, and because we found when we'd done this particular course around the country, around the UK, there are certain places in the UK where clearly there's a very, very, very strong comedy industry, be it in obviously London, Salford, etc., but other places less so. And we found that in Bristol and in Newcastle, and they're coming here. And so what we always tend to do is to say, you have to make your own luck. You have to get together, and you have to work together, and you have to do the thing that Ness has talked about. It's like, okay, how do we break down those barriers? You know, who else can we work with? What other actors can we work with, or filmmakers to maybe shoot stuff? You know, to create character, because you know there is online. There's also the BBC has comedy feeds, which is short form content. Channel 4 has comedy blaps, you know. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, you have to be equipped to write your 6 half hours of a sitcom. It's like, have you got an interesting idea? Have you got an interesting set of characters? Have you got a comedian or an interesting comedy actor who you can go out and shoot stuff with your friends who graduated as directors? It's like, that's what we always try to encourage. You can't just expect people to come to you and embrace you and say, oh, we love you, yeah, we're going to commission you. You have to make your own luck. You really do. So there's a gentleman who's been wanting to ask you a question.
Look, it's very interesting, and you know, it's to sit here and listen. But as a practitioner of comedy, you're so far out of the loop, it's unbelievable. The comedy on the island of Ireland is buoyant.
I'm not talking about, sorry, I wasn't talking about the island of Ireland.
Okay,
I'm perfectly aware of Dublin being part of the international circuit.
I live in Belfast. I'm a modern day planter. I came here 5 years ago. And I'm part of a cooperative group who work together, who have an audience. But we bypass the TV commissioners because we play it online. So I and my friends have characters who exist in the online sphere who attract millions of hits a day on YouTube and Facebook and Twitter, but we don't feel the need to go to the commissioners because our first step here is to go to BBC in Northern Ireland, and we're competing with people like Tim who have 20 years experience. So we can just go, if I wasn't sat here now listening to this, I'd be at home in my office creating content. I can get feedback within seconds, I can go viral, I can be funny, I can hone that. And I can go and I can stand on stage and I can tell jokes. But what I can't get is I can't get to speak to commissioners because commissioners aren't interested in my audience.
I'm just going to thought that they would be. You've got millions of hits. Also, why are you going, no disrespect to BBC Northern Ireland, but if you're on YouTube, why are you going elsewhere?
I have 40,000 Facebook fans.
Fantastic.
And 18,000 Twitter followers. And I can't get a meeting with the BBC because production companies have their own ideas. The commissioner, they're commissioning with the greatest of respect for Tim. He's at it a long time, but you know it's hard for new talent to break through. We are out there with an audience.
So just to be clear, you've sent emails to producers
I have a master's
with links
degree.
to your.
I have a master's degree in film production. I have met producers. I have had people from the BBC.
I'm asking, can I ask you a question? I'm just trying to answer your question. So just. Loving passion. That's fantastic. Yes. I find it amazing that you're sending emails to all these producers, and believe me, I happen to know how panicked they are about the whole YouTube phenomena, and you've got all these amazing followers, and you're not able to get a meeting.
Do you know why that is?
Why?
Because I say cunt.
Did you say what,
because I say cunt, because I swear. And they're like, oh, we can't have you, you're dangerous because you use bad language.
Oh, I'm sorry, the word cunt isn't really
exactly. Exactly.
But
because you're...
I don't think it's that. I'm pretty sure it's not that. Pretty sure it's not that. But honestly, I can promise you, if you're a YouTube sensation, and you go to any production company, and I know disrespect to BBC Northern Ireland because they do a lot of great work, but that's an international format.
Yes.
That's a platform that's international.
I've had meetings with YouTube.
There's a lady just in front of you would like to talk to you because that lady there is very important lady and you've been nice to her.
I'm in John Paul.
So I commission comedy for Radio Ulster.
Yeah.
I've never heard of you and I haven't had any emails from you.
No, you haven't. But I've had people from the BBC come and buy me coffee and buy me pints and bring me out. And then it goes upstairs to the 6th floor.
Can't be about one person.
Can I just say, I just on the YouTube thing, like Graham says, we're sort of open to looking at things that come from anywhere. So I've just commissioned series 3 and 4, something called People Just Do Nothing, which came to us as a bunch of guys picked up a camera in Brentford, filmed themselves, zero money, and sent it to Ashatala, a rough cut television, a production company. He liked it and brought it to us. And that's something that went on a journey from being a tiny little YouTube thing to a pilot, to we've just commissioned the 3rd and 4th series of it. So we're absolutely open to that. And in terms of cunt, I mean, we you know, if you see the thick of it, which broke the record
I'm speaking on behalf of all of the comedy talent in this room, because we all collaborate together.
I suppose, I mean, even some of the biggest hits we have in comedy in RTE have come from, like, the Rubber Bandits or Damo and Ivor, have gone on a journey from starting on YouTube. Then I mean, at times it's almost felt semi-exploitative. We're looking at YouTube and saying, we like these guys who are going out there and doing their own thing, scooping them up and giving them a beachhead in the TV and moving them along through their career. So what you're doing, you know, is great for us, you know, and it really facilitates our job for us.
But it's getting from here to there. It's making that leap.
So damn sight easier if someone's got a YouTube video and it's really funny than reading a script, which involves imagination.
Do with people like our friend over there, do they need to come to you via production companies, or can they go to you directly, or what is the route to get to you?
I mean, it is generally production companies. If you want to email me, and I'll have a look at your stuff. It is generally production companies, because as I'm sure you appreciate, there are thousands and thousands of people wanting to think that they're funny and making stuff and wanting to get on telly. And we read hundreds of scripts.
Shall we mark the envelope Northern Ireland? Would that help?
It probably would, yeah. I'm just being totally honest and realistic about things. I just thought it might be useful to say, how successful stuff that happens, that we make, how it starts. A lot of it starts because it comes through, it's been filtered by a production company, and that means you've had people who've got great experience in making comedy, who have sound editorial judgment, who have worked with the people, who have sometimes funded tapes and put their own money into it, and helped develop them as talent, so that by the time it comes to us, it's maybe in a better state than it was originally. Now, it's not always the case. But I'm just sort of wondering where it's going wrong for people like you, who are making stuff, and obviously...
Can I suggest one thing where it might be going wrong? I know W1A, when I saw this clip, I just couldn't, it was exactly my experience, and there's a clip behind it, just for a very quick, light moment. Can we have a look at the clip there from W1A, just how...
Meanwhile, producer Lucy Freeman is with potentially new writer Dan Shepherd. After working towards developing a new drama, Home Truth, with him for over 2 years, the project is finally nearing another meeting.
I have to say, I don't know what that's going to say. If he asked for the meeting, so I mean, I'm always cautious, but really, after everything you've been through, I mean, you have to think, what else can it be but something good?
Yes, so do you actually work on this place every day?
Yes, I do, yes.
Right, okay.
Every day.
Dan, hi.
You remember that?
How are we? Yeah, good, yeah. Thanks so much for coming all the way down. How's Whitby? Wetherby, yes, Wetherby. Okay, thanks. Great. Still pretty much the same. Great, have a seat or something. Yeah. Oh.
Generic head of comedy and/or drama, Matt Taverner, has asked to meet Lucy and Dan to talk about what happens next with Home Truth. A love story set and told very much in the context of the Yorkshire seaside town of Scarborough.
I mean, first of all, I love what you've done with these scripts.
All right. They're great, aren't they?
I just think the characters are really solid now.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, the main character,
Sarah.
I love that she's a woman. I love that she's, she's strong. I really feel like I know who Sarah is now.
Yeah, I haven't really done anything to her.
No, well, maybe not, but the way she reads now and the architecture of the whole.
Oh, right.
So the work you've done around her as a protagonist.
Yeah.
I mean, look, what I'm basically saying is, congratulations.
Oh, right, okay.
Terrific.
Thanks.
See?
So I guess part of my job is, I think a lot at the moment about what is a BBC story today.
All right.
Do you?
And also about who we want to be telling stories about, who do we want to tell them to.
Right.
I don't know who.
I don't know, I may be wrong about this, but he said just something about Scarborough as a place, as a precinct, if you like. Is it a bit, I don't know, maybe a bit one-dimensional in some ways?
One-dimensional?
Yeah, it is.
What do you mean, Matt?
Well, I guess I just mean culturally, really. Is it all just a bit the same?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Well...
Because, I mean, that's sort of like the point.
Yeah, no, sure, that's great, Dan. That's brilliant. I mean, would it help us at all here, I'm just throwing this out there, would it help us if we thought about reimagining it somewhere a bit more like, I don't know, Leicester.
Leicester.
Oh, right. You know, Wolverhampton, or I don't know, maybe even somewhere like Walthamstow, perhaps. Or, would that make it culturally richer? And if so, would that be a good thing?
No, but Matt, that's Walthamstow. I mean, that's the polar opposite of Scarborough.
No, sure.
You know, you might as well just start again.
No, there's such potential, Dan. We all feel the same about that. I guess my job is just to ask the question, could it be even better?
Oh, okay, right.
And if you could, I guess what I'm asking Dan just to think about is there something we might all gain from that? Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about here.
Yes.
Great.
Chris, well done, the BBC, doing a comedy that is so unerringly accurate. Because a long time ago, but I've been through journeys. I've travelled the whole way to London to have people talk about scripts that they kind of hadn't read or didn't understand or whatever. And we just, as I said at the start, my career has entirely been in Northern Ireland. We've tried stuff over in England, and you know, I appreciate that things have moved on from my day and all of that. But all my stuff is now in precisely Northern Ireland, and it's partly because stuff that's not so far from the reality, is it?
Well, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, I'm like that. I think, I think with all these things, you definitely, I've met people like that. You get good commissioners, you get bad commissioners. That is undoubted. In exactly the same way that you get good producers and bad producers, and good writers and bad writers.
Well, sorry, let me ask you one.
Yeah.
I mean, some of the talk about narrative heft and architecture and precinct and all that. That didn't happen to Mrs. Brown's Boys. Mrs. Brown's Boys is probably the biggest hit the BBC has ever had, and that was just a commission on the basis of somebody saw the stage show and went, "That's fantastic."
Things go on different journeys, and things develop very differently. The Dream Project is one that you don't give any input into, any notes into. Because when it lands on your desk, you love it. It's brilliant, and you just want to make it. Mrs. Brown's Boys was something that, you know, I don't know how long Brendan was touring that show before it got, it was like 20 years or something, wasn't it? So he had a long time to develop his character. I think what Vanessa was saying about people getting sort of propelled too quickly these days is very true, particularly with sketch shows in Edinburgh where you know, they have an hour's worth of material and get a sketch series off the back of it, and it runs out after 2 episodes. But yeah, I mean, stuff like that undoubtedly does happen. But I think that what this chap was talking about, it sounds like he hasn't even got to this stage in terms of getting stuff in front of commissioners, because it sounds to me from some of the things we've been saying, as I said, I don't get a lot of scripts from Northern Ireland on my desk. And it sounds like maybe there's a problem.
Graham first, and then I'll get to Clare. Graham first, and then Clare. Graham wants to come in there.
I mean, you know, just obviously that's a funny clip, but you have to make sure that it doesn't feed your writer's prejudices that the doors are shut. You know, because, you know, as someone who's been a commissioner and been a producer, has gone backwards and forwards, you know, I don't think that is really the case. I think, you know, commissioners want to see and find something that they love and that is great, you know. And it's like, commissioners have to deal with a lot of stuff, and they have to see a lot of stuff, and the readers see a lot of stuff, but they want to find something that is great. And the other really important aspect is that there's a sense that, oh, you know, you're miles away from London, no one's interested. In my experience of talking to commissioners, is that particularly for the main channels, for BBC One and ITV, they absolutely want non-London stories, non-metropolitan voices. You know, they want to make stuff from, you know, Mrs. Brown's Boys is a case in point. You know, they want to make shows from Newcastle or Manchester, etc. So I just think that you need to treasure what makes you special, your area special, but you also have to think about the market and about bigger ideas and about how your idea is going to fit into the marketplace. You know, and the thing that we talk about all the time is you have to understand the marketplace. You have to understand how it works. You know, and so if you're finding it difficult to get a commissioner's attention, then you have to do a bit of research. Okay, what production companies does that commissioner like to work with? Then, because there are loads of production companies out there, and some make more shows for the BBC and some make more shows for Channel 4 or Sky, target those production companies. This process, this collaborative process, is about starting a dialogue, a creative dialogue with a local producer, with someone who's going to help you here, with a production company maybe here, or maybe with a production company like Rough Cut, or Big Talk, or Channel X. You need to start a dialogue, because these people are going to help you get your project to the state where actually they can show it to Chris, and actually Chris is going to get really excited about it, or Eddie's going to get really excited about it. You just have to think about how the system works, and it's no good railing against the system. You have to embrace the system and understand how it works and learn as much as you can about it.
Thank you very much. Claire, there are 250 writers in your comedy writers group. They're not all good. You're not on 250 scripts that are going to hit. Is there a danger that we go, oh, we're from Northern Ireland, or we deserve, and we don't actually, because we're special, we've been through the troubles, you have to put something on for you. Is there a danger of that?
There is some very funny stuff there, and you're talking about characters that you want to hear more from, and the more that, what we do is that we read sketches because they're really quick and you can build on characters, and then we put them on sketch nights, and then we make short films out of them, and each stage you're filtering up, perhaps subconsciously, the ones that aren't so funny, and the ones like the priest, that we call him the bad father, that's worse than people taking confessions. You want to hear more and more sketches from him because it's hilarious. It's like watching Father Ted, but it's slightly different. Or there's a charity shop sketch that we have, and you want to hear more from all of those characters, and we sent them your way as well, and the feedback that we get is really useful, because we're not used to targeting a certain audience, a certain time band. It takes a professional to tell you, well, actually the way that you've written that is for 2 separate programmes. You need to change it so that it's 8:30 on BBC, that instead of Channel 4 for that section. And that's the useful feedback that then we can use to help our other writers and to bring our own programmes on further.
Well, Lenny, do you feel that people from Northern Ireland get a bit of a chip on their shoulder? And you're from Belfast yourself, you go, we're from Northern Ireland, we deserve, we're not getting, are we whinging too much, and we should just get on with it?
I think that, I think that some of the sessions earlier today were interesting for the kind of optimism and the positivity in other kind of genres. And I think in this genre, you have, in the BBC, you've got a guy who's targeted specifically with finding stuff, and other people who actually are targeted at finding great comedy projects from this territory. And we're interested in kind of playing ball and being a partner there. So look, it's an art and a business. I think writing stuff is tricky, and generating comedy is ineffable. It's hard to quantify. But certainly, I think Graham's right. You have to understand the rules of the business. There are slots where people, we want to find stuff that is monstrously successful, that brings big audiences, and that everybody can feel proud of when their name's associated with it. And we're configured towards, we're pointing at this jurisdiction. So, I do think that in understanding schedules and the business, I think currently there is a trend towards some of the things that we'd be interested in partnering are quite sort of escapist. And so a lot of we do some local comedy which is caustically satirical, and again, like I say, about a critique of the place and the history, and and looking at the evolution of this island and these jurisdictions. But I think if you want to make it big, if you want to make a career out of this, I think and you want to be involved in something that travels internationally or travels to the big market in the UK, particularly in the scripted territory, a lot of it's about bubbles.
Jackie, you're going back to one of the biggest names to come out of here, who made it across the water, is Paddy Keaty. You started off in the Empire Comedy Club and PK Tonight and all of that. Is there a danger that we're a bit like our politicians here, comedians go, we deserve, give us more money from the
No, I don't think so. My recent experience, like this year, and for me, it's about the comedy voice, actually, of trying to afford these people the space with the privilege that the licence fee has afforded, if you like, to do what they want to do, and not to be consumed with what is Channel 4 want, what is BBC want. Just be funny, be yourself, and let's play that out. Let's look at it, let's cut it down again. So it's like a really, not intensive, but hopefully it's funny and good fun, but it's about an R&D process, about getting that comedy voice out without thinking actually about where's the end game at this point. It's my job, I suppose, as a producer, to have an idea of where that might land in some way, and to be a viable business, to have an idea where that comedy voice might sit with Eddie, and something else might sit with Channel 4, and to be the conduit, if you like, to get the dialogue going, and that's where it's really important to have the confidence and the support of commissioners to afford that space where nothing can be guaranteed. You do not know. It's a risky market. You don't know where it's going to come out from. So I think it's about affording space for comedy voices, trying them out, preparing to fail, and within that we will, and we have, I believe, found nuggets of great potential. So when you talk about Paddy as a stand-up, and he went on to be a presenter, and I think he's doing more writing now. Yeah, but there are the big ones up there, but really people like me are enablers, facilitators, and it's an important part of the ecology. And so what I try and do, in my thinking, if you like, is to try and find the space for that to happen. And it might be in a comedy club doing a stand-up routine, or it might be part of the development thing. But actually being realistic and hopefully not sound too stupid about it, realising that some of these things that you were involved with could end up over there with somebody else. But I think that's all part of our responsibility without sounding too, it really is the collaborative thing that Vanessa talked about. And maybe we're getting to a place here now with the industry and, the broadcasters and people, the kind of work Graham's doing as well, where we're creating this a bit more, and people like our friend here, I forgot your name, sorry, who's already ahead of the game working with comedy writers and stuff like that. There's a natural place to land to say that every year, not just because, 1 year ago something like that happened, like a comedy showcase. No, every year there's this thing that happens, there's an appointment, and it's not a one-off, it happens for weeks. It might only be 10 minutes a week, but it happens. That's just like being in a band or being a stand-up and turn up the gig, take off and land, take off and land, take off and land. Didn't like that one, but here's another one. But unless you have that space to happen, it ain't going to turn into anything. If that makes sense.
Sorry, yes, I'm taking questions. Yes, hello.
Yeah, I know we've all been talking a lot about scripted comedy and saying that there's much more interest in character-based comedy and developing kind of sketches into longer form things, but I just was wanting to hear Chris's and Eddie's kind of thoughts on the comedy quiz show market now, and is there any interest in kind of
I have a mic. Hi. Should I say it all again? Okay, everyone. It is comedy format shows. What's the market like? What are you looking for? Are you looking for anything like that?
So, right. So the question is, instead of just narrative comedies and sitcoms, is there a market for panel shows and other forms of comedy?
A short answer to that, for us, not right now. I think we're in territory there in RTE where it's very hard to land one, even with great talent, great production companies. We haven't had much success there recently, so we're standing back from that right now and focusing on other areas.
Chris?
We just do scripted comedy in the comedy department. We're quite a small department. We literally just do scripted comedy. The comedy panel shows all come out of the entertainment department. So if you want to email me again, I can put you in touch with someone there and they can answer that.
So what department do they come out of? The
entertainment department.
Right,
so they'll make album news for you and mock the week and everything like that.
Which is the same at Channel 4. So Channel 4 panel shows tend to come out of entertainment. There's a new entertainment guy at Channel 4, Ben Cordell, who came out of working with Charlie Brooker for years. He's a really great, accessible guy. I believe that they're looking for some more comedy format shows, and it needn't necessarily be a panel show. It's like, what's the next evolution of that? You know, we do a show. We're involved in a show for the Dave Channel with Alan Davis, which is essentially just 5 comedians around the table talking about stuff. It's the least formatted show you will ever see, but for some reason it works brilliantly, and it works brilliantly for the channel. And so thinking about non-scripted, okay, what is the next way to use comedians and to use comedy voices in a new way?
Yeah, I think that creative process is really, really important, and to think about what do I want to do, what do I want to do with this, which is a bit of your world on YouTube, I suppose, and just doing it now. But I'd be interested as well, because there's never a really clear answer, I suppose, but what are commissioners looking for? You know, is there a perception of, what they think they get from Northern Ireland? Is there an expectation, actually, of what they would like from Northern Ireland? Like Channel 4, for example, one can see and understand clearly it's quite a, youthful, dynamic and all of that, right? But across the BBC portfolio, what message do you give to writers that you say, actually, maybe it's more easy to define yourself by what you do not want?
Yeah.
You know, is
I guess it is different for us because obviously, as I said, we have 4 channels and iPlayer and the radio. So the hope is that if a project comes in that we want to do, there is a home for it somewhere at the BBC. I always find it quite hard to say what we're looking for because you don't want to be too prescriptive about comedy because the best stuff sort of surprises you. And
but would you say, for example, do not come with the sketch show because we're just not interested?
I've never said anything
You
like
can
that.
cover sketch shows. Sketch shows is narrative comedy. It's entertainment. It's just for panel shows.
We do sketch shows, yeah. No, I'd never say anything like that. I think the only thing I'd say is to watch what's on our channels, and obviously if we have something, you know, like Bad Education that's for BBC Three set in a school, then don't pitch something that's sort of similar characters set in a school. But apart from that,
that's my sitcom, Mrs. White's Girls.
Apart from that, specifically speaking to writers, I think you shouldn't really think about where my show is going to end up. I think, like Jackie and Graham said earlier, you have to sort of write what you want to write. It has to come from you. And then sort of the job of producers is really to go, okay, well that would be a brilliant BBC Three show, or an ITV2 show, or a Sky Arts show, whatever it is. So my advice to writers would really be, write what you want to write and let other people worry about where it's going to go.
Chris has been here and he's come the whole way from where we do really genuinely appreciate it, but there always seems to be a kind of disconnect between people out there who are practicing and who are writing and who are doing sketch shows and stuff, and you just seem like a way up there on a different, and I know you're a very small team, only 3 of you aren't in your team. How can we close that gap? Where are we going wrong in closing that gap between these people here and yourself?
Yeah. Well, I think the most important gap is probably the gap between myself and the producers over here that want to make comedy, and that's my responsibility, and that's their responsibility as well. We have to meet more and talk more, because the more you're in dialogue with people, the more you get to know what people's tastes are. And then if there is another gap, it will be between the writers and the producers, and so for the producers to get to know more and have a better idea of what we're looking for and what the sort of development process is that's going to get a successful script out of people and get a successful show on TV, and for them to communicate that to the writers. And I think what you're doing is brilliant, and I had no idea about it. If you have got all those writers going on, that's fantastic, and hopefully there will be a process in place that manages to nurture the best of those scripts through a production company and get them to me, and I think that's what we have to work on.
Yes,
sorry, just a quick one. From the BBC Northern Ireland presentation for what they want for next year, that was in the Lyric Theatre about a month ago, presenting 2 mainly production companies in Northern Ireland. May I quote? We continue to look for ways to refresh our limited comedy and entertainment portfolio. We are looking for one fresh panel show idea and new ways of growing writing and performing talent. If BBC Northern Ireland are saying that to Northern Irish producers, then Northern Irish producers are going to look for a new panel show.
I'm not saying the BBC is not looking for a panel show.
I'm not having a go in any way. I
don't think you need a microphone, but
I've just joys of being an actor. Sorry. No, I've got to remember not to shout. No, I'm not having a go at the BBC at all in any way, shape or form. But I'm just saying that putting forward that sort of limited request to the producers over here, and at the end of the day, producers want to make money. I know money is a dirty word.
Is that regional Northern Ireland though? That's not.
That was regional Northern Ireland.
So it's very parochial here.
Yeah.
So you're dealing with parochial producers. A lot of the time, they don't want to.
You do realise most of the entertainment producers in this room actually make successful shows internationally. I mean, you know, the entertainment people punch way above their weight, as do the documentary people. Scripted doesn't. It really doesn't.
Because there aren't any parochial producers in Northern Ireland. Like, you wouldn't be in business if you were just a parochial production company.
Yeah. BBC Northern Ireland also has a very small budget, a limited budget, and hasn't really. Sorry, yes, Kieran Bartlett. You know, Kieran, you're a stand-up and you've done stand-up comedy and.
Yeah. Can I just interject a wee bit? positivity and say
Yes, of course.
Yeah, I'll wait for the mic, Sean.
I have.
Thanks very much.
Is it on? Is it on?
My name is Kieran Borden. I'm a stand-up comedian and a writer and a performer, a banter merchant. Basically, I'd like to inject a wee bit of positivity here. There's actually a lot of good stuff happening. I've been doing comedy about 5 years, and there's far more stuff happening now than there was when I started. There's far more opportunities. I was at that commissioning brief you were at the other week, mate, and it generated a lot of ideas and contacts for me. This is generating contacts for me that I haven't had before. I don't think producers here are appropriate. I think there's a difference between regional TV and national TV, and when they're looking for something regional, that's for a regional audience. You know, I don't personally see the benefit of having something, Chris, that is going to be based in Belfast with 6 characters that are only going to make sense to people in Belfast. You know, if I say to you, I've got this great character from West Belfast, I've got this other great character, and he's from East Belfast, that might mean nothing to you, but to somebody from here, they go, oh well, they're going to hate each other, you know. And I think it's fine, but that's regional. I think we should be looking at. I'm looking to be a bit bigger with it. I'm looking at just being positive and proactive. I don't think it's as bleak as some of the comments would have been from the audience.
Thank you very much. Lady in the middle, you have the microphone, sorry.
I do. I agree about positivity. I think that's a really important point to make. What I also wanted to say was about talent development, because I work from Northern Ireland Screen for my sins. And what I want to say to Claire is, you talk about short film. Who have you sent those short films to?
Well, Lawrence and I submitted just at the start of the summer there. The short film is in process because we didn't get the funding from you, we're just making it ourselves. And that's a large part of what Belfast comedy writers do. We're doing it for ourselves.
Do you have a producer?
Oh yes, me.
What's your producer experience in terms of commercial? What Jackie was saying.
This is like a one-on-one, a very nice one-on-one conversation.
I know, but
sorry, if your wider point, I'm not going to connect after, but is there a wider point that you say NI Screen is there for more development?
Indeed.
Okay. NI Screen is looking for comedy writers or looking for
a positive thing. You know,
just to be clear, NI Screen is happy to receive ideas, scripts, anything from.
Yeah.
And they don't need to be full-length feature films or anything like that.
No, my title is short film person, executive. I'm happy to look at anything, and I will.
And know that from my personal experience with Northern Irish Screen, I agree entirely. They've been fantastic. They're very objective and they're very good.
And a positive note to the comment here. Since we formed in February, it has been so fast-paced. We kind of started it up hoping that there would be a little bit of interest. And all of a sudden, we've been invited to so many different events and been contacted by very significant people. And we hadn't realised what was waiting for us whenever we started it. So yes, the interest's there and the opportunities are there, and now it just requires the energy to chase up all of these.
Was it Kieran? Because in terms of the sort of small local story, I don't actually agree, and I think sometimes the best things do come from small local stories. That even if we might not fully understand them, what other people see them might not fully understand them when they first see them, you sort of grow to understand what those local rivalries are or whatever it is. And I agree with you. You can look at internationally, but I think I wouldn't ignore the small stories. We've got detectorists.
I think it's come across. I was actually made it like I would sooner see something like that myself on TV here.
Oh yeah.
I don't see that being. I don't think people in Yorkshire are gonna tune in on to something I've done that is very introverted.
They might do. But sometimes things that really reflect small areas.
I haven't seen that before though. I haven't seen.
Yeah. Maybe not specific, and I agree, and that's something that we're looking for. But you do get comedies that are all over the world that are based in really small communities and tell really local stories, and they sometimes can be the biggest things.
That's the positive thing I've thought about, because literally up until today, I've never thought about going to BBC National and my stuff because it's all here. Because the thing I do is like I try to be authentic to here. So I'd
rather read something like that than someone trying to write what they think quite a bland.
Lady at the back of the room there, can we come?
My name's Susan.
Oh, Susan, sure, didn't see you there.
Your mic's not on, Susan.
I'm the television commissioner. I just.
We ask you to shout, Susan.
Sorry, this didn't happen in the lyric, can I just say? Just two quick points to make. We are not a channel, as you said, Tim, many times I've said I wish I had a channel. We opt out of BBC One, so it's quite a lot of responsibility attached to that. And we've got to get our decision making right, and obviously our budget is commensurately small. Two things to say. One is we see our job as doubly important. Number one, we are trying to grow and showcase talent from entry level to the point at which Chris may be taking an interest, and that does take years, but we are actively involved and interested in doing that with you. And if you did stay to the end of the lyric, I did say, please come and talk to us. Now that wasn't an empty promise. We do want to meet and talk to whoever wants to meet and talk to us. Without the comedy talent in this room, we are nothing. We don't have a great deal of comedy talent floating around. It's probably people like you or people connected to you or collaborations that you haven't yet done. So we're very open to that. We do want to hear from you. That doesn't mean a conversation necessarily results in a quick commission. That's not how that works, as Tim will attest. But these relationships, creative relationships and dialogues, grow over a period of time, and so we have been able to pull out new young talent.
Can I ask you a hard question then?
Of course.
Sorry, Susan, we've done stuff here locally, and Kieran's right, you know, give my head pace and various things specifically for a local audience, about local gags, and you're catering for a Northern Ireland audience. Have you more of a job to do in nurturing talent here to bring to Chris, to bring the network that isn't just for BBC Northern Ireland? Have you more to do in that?
Second part of the job, and we take that seriously as well, because without a vibrant creative sector coming out of Northern Ireland, comedy sector included, we don't have a sector that can support the BBC in all its aims across every genre. So we're there to spend the licence fee on behalf of the local audience primarily. The local television audience needs to be served in a particular way, but our other job is to spend the licence fee to ensure that the creative industry in Northern Ireland can be vibrant into the future, and you're all part of that future. And those are different kinds of conversations, I think. And so I wouldn't make that, I wouldn't separate out local and network in that way, because I think they are interconnected, and finding those threads that you can pull out from something that works beautifully for a local audience to see what could make an impact globally, because the world is your oyster. I think that's the real trick, and it takes some time.
Thank you very much. We've only a couple of minutes left, so a couple of quick questions. Yes?
Just a quick question about network radio comedy. Do you think, Chris, it's pushed enough? For example, do you think enough people in Northern Ireland would know about opportunities like the show that we wrote? And do you think that's a good way for people to get their voice heard initially?
The question was about, just one people might have heard, it's about radio and network radio, and do enough people here know about network radio?
So radio is again a different department from us. But I think there is a bit of a disconnect at the moment between BBC radio comedy and BBC TV comedy, which is something we're trying to join up, because it feels like we're two separate things that don't really talk to each other. And there has been a great tradition of stuff starting on the radio and ending up on the Mighty Boosh and Little Britain and Miranda all started on the radio. So it's something we want to do more of. I think they've recently announced plans that they want to triple the amount of radio production that's made by indies, because traditionally it's been mostly made by in-house. And hopefully that will broaden the range and broaden the amount of people out there looking for new writers. But I think definitely radio is an area that could do a bit of improvement.
Lady there, yes, please.
Just very quickly, if you can't get a script read, I run BBC Writers' Room, and we take unsolicited scripts twice a year. And we have a comedy window earlier in the year. They're all read, they're all looked at, and out of that we then develop a certain number of writers. So there's sort of the 15 best scripts, then writers go into development. If all else fails, contact us, and all the opportunities available are on our website.
And what's the website?
If you just put in BBC Writers' Room, it just comes up top.
BBC Writers' Room.
Otherwise, I'm around if anybody wants to talk to me, and I can tell you about other opportunities. But that is unsolicited, so anybody can send.
Thank you very much. Technically out of time. Any last quick questions? Anybody else with a question? Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for your attention and your intelligent questions. Could you please give a nice warm round of applause for our panel? I'm not keeping anybody under pressure, but we are about, you're about for the next week, while everybody wants to colour you. The man with the beard wants to have a word with anybody, we're all here for the next time. Thank you very much, thank you, enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you very much, everybody. Last announcement for the day.